Hi there, welcome to Scott from Wessex Blades. This is going to be the start of a very low-key, run and gun, unedited leathercraft series of videos that I'm going to do for Patreon. And I want to give you a taste of it on the main YouTube channel as well. I'm going to be popping up as ever, usually with tips and tricks with videos, but this is a more of an amble through a project, and I'm going to do it really low key. So what I mean is it's very conversational. If I pick up a tool and I haven't even mentioned what I use this tool for now, or what this tool's called, or whatever, I'll literally just divert off and have 2 or 3 minutes explaining that tool. So it's going to be an amble through a project, whilst not really being too focused on the end product. However, more of an introduction to the techniques used that you can then pick up, learn, practice with for projects of your own, and you then would have had an introduction to those ways of using a tool or to that actual technique. So it's very much like when you do training for health and safety for data. When I was a school technician, we're not interested about the end product. We want to tick you off of the skills used in order to show that you're proficient at something. So we'll just start right from the very beginning. We're going to be making a very simple bracelet. However, there's going to be various things that will come along the way, and you should be able to pick up what I'm using, how I'm using, all the rest of it, and the tools that I'll pick up on. So right from the very beginning, if it's in leather, there's varying forms of leather. Okay, I'm going to be concentrating, being a knife maker, on something called veggie tan. This is the process of treating the outside of a cow so that it will be more stable, and it's usable and it's resilient, and it's a process called tanning. So basically oak tan leather is what I'm using. So whenever you're looking through eBay or you're looking at Amazon and you're trying to buy some leather to do these projects, the term is called veg tan, veggie tan, oak tanned. Okay, and that'll give you the similar performance of leather that I'm going to be showing you that I'm using. Okay, so oak tan leather. There's a lot of different types of oak tan leather in terms of quality. So if you can, you'll go to a tannery itself or a leather merchant, because there's a huge difference in the finish that you get in its raw form when you actually start using it. Okay, so this would be the shiny side of the leather, and that is the flesh side. Okay, now you can see that's very tidy, even on what I would call the flesh or the raw side. Okay, now if you order it online and you haven't checked it, you end up with a very fluff ridden rear, which is very difficult to work with when you're trying to think about the inside of the sheath, because it keeps just rolling up, messing about. So if you can, when you go to a leather merchant, whatever, you get huge, great hides, great rolls of things. I mean, great big. It's a cow cut in half on the outside. You get a shoulder, so it's like you can imagine a quarter of a cow. So you're looking at something that's between 4 foot, 16 square foot of it. You flop it on the table, and you want to check both sides. Okay, and what you're looking for is you don't want any marks like the cow's caught some barbed wire on the outside, and you want to check on the inside. So you flip it over, and what you're not trying to get is rubbish like that. Okay, once you get burned by something like that, you never buy from that supplier again. Now I get most of my leather from a local tannery. I'm in Radstock, so I'm near Bath and Wells and Bristol. So I use someone called, I think it's Thomas Ware, but I know where it is, whether it's Thomas Ware, and they make shoe leather. So my leather that I use for my shoes is for leather uppers and stacked heels. It's tough. Okay, it's really resilient. It's not very supple that way, only in thin strap form does it got any real give. So on processes where I need folds, I've got to do certain things to it in order to make it yield a bit more. But if you go to someone like the Identity store, you'll get good leather from them. And the only other one I've got that I've recently used is called GH leather, and I've had a really nice shoulder from them. So I give those as examples, but the eBay and Amazon is a bit of a lottery, and you need to really make sure that when you get it and you check the back, if you're not happy with it and you get stuff like that on the back, you go straight back, because you'll just end up tripping over yourself as time goes on, because the finish will be horrendous, and it just starts picking up, and it's rubbish. Okay, so get the leather, veggie tanned, very tidy front and back. Check it before you buy it if you can. And we're only at the leather stage. It's great, isn't it? So what we're going to work today to make this really simple bracelet is, let's just pretend I'm going to be using a better piece than this, and I'll show you how to get your things cut. So I'm just going to crank the camera down now. So here is a worktop. So we've got a big cutting mat on a very stable workbench. Try and get as much space as you can around these things, because it just makes it so much easier. So you're looking at a kitchen table, you know, you want a decent 3-foot square table to work on things. Now, to use the tool I'm going to catch up with in a minute, you want to have a straight cut. One thing that's a superb tool, get yourself a nice stainless steel 500mm rule, something like this, cheapest chips, Amazon, eBay, and the amount of times that you'll use a 500mm rule, you'll believe. Kydex, leather, all sorts. So I'm using obviously the cutting mat underneath, cheap retractable blade Stanley knife. I'm giving myself a straight cut. Be very careful so you don't slip, catch your fingers and thumb, but you're giving yourself the beginnings of a straight side. And the reason you want that is because I'm going to be using a strap cutter. Now this is a budget one. It's not a very expensive one. There are some really nice ones. You're looking at hardwood, beech, and there's like a razor blade at one end with the sharp edge here at this end, the back of the blade that end, and you adjust that, slide that out, a bit like a marking gauge in carpentry. And so you slide the lever up on this flat surface here that's square to the arm, and you pull your lever through, a bit like a bean slicer. Okay, so you got a measurement on there. I'm going to give myself your 1 inch or whatever. I'm going to cut the strap for you on camera so you can see what I'm doing, but I've actually pre-cut it already from very nice leather elsewhere. But this is what is basically the task. You run it up the squared off side of your strap cutter. When it gets to the blade, the first thing that will happen is that corner will bind up in there. So when you push it through, it's never the easiest thing to do. What you want to do is, as it comes up, make sure that lever doesn't get hung up underneath this corner. What you can do is poke something through from the other side, because the amount of times it just gets snagged on that front corner and it won't go anywhere. There we are. So now it's actually past that corner and it should run reasonable. When you're pulling it up, try and keep the lever to that square running side, and slowly but surely you're giving yourself a 1-inch strap, 2-inch strap, 10mm strap, whatever. Let's say the trouble to begin with is you push it up, it just gets hung up underneath there, and you've got a bit of a tinker to clear it. And then once you're running up, keep it neat and tidy, give yourself a nice strap. So this is for belt loops, carry straps, or bracelets. That's called a strap cutter. Right, so moving on to the piece I've actually cut in my nice leather. What processes will turn this into a bracelet? Well, first of all, it's getting the right size. So I'll do it for someone smaller than myself. I suppose about that big. So by the time you've overdone it, in terms of you've cut more than enough so that the fixing that we're going to use has enough to cover over the top and the bottom to use the fixing, that would be plenty for now. There. You can use pencil, you can use biro, because you're going to be, by cutting and trimming, you'll lose that mark anyway. Now you can use an engineer square to cut it square, but the finish that I'm going to put on it, in terms of the profile, won't be square, it'll be rounded. So that's my bracelet size to begin with, and I can always trim it later. Okay, so however big or small, you can finish it up later. I'm going to round the edges up. Okay, the ends. That's where your ruler comes in again. So your big one, or if you're engineering based, you'll have something like that. And all you need to do is lay that up and make sure you use your fingers to make sure that the strap runs underneath evenly to what the ruler is, so you haven't got it laid like that, if that makes sense. You'll end up with a nice radius at the end. It's nice and even, and you get your cutting blade. You've put a radius on the end, and you can use chisels that are shaped like that. You can see them on eBay. Cheap ones need a lot of work to put an edge on, and all you would do if you were using those was put it on an end, the right size, that's too small at the moment, and then hit it with a mallet and you'll cut the end off completely. So what I'll do is I'll use this for now just to trim that corner off, so you can see that you use, alright, so just nick the corner off of there, and that's where you need a cutting mat. It will make beautiful, neat, semicircular cuts in wood, leather, quite happily. So there's those things like that. Right, so you could do different corners on them, but just using the end of a ruler and a standing knife is enough to give you that end profile. So we now have strap cut, the ends rounded. Decorative wise, I like putting grooves down the sides. Okay, so let's find my groover. Okay, you may have seen something like this. You undo that knurled section and slide that in, a bit like a fence on a router. Okay, so choose the gap you want, something like that. Because it's a thin strap, you want it quite a narrow gap, because you'll end up more in the middle, so that there. Okay, if you had a wider strap, you could put something on more like that, but because he's so narrow at the present time, we'll put one on about like that. You're going to hold the strap down, run that edge there up against the lever, don't go to the end, come a little bit off the end, because you'll be finishing off that way anyway. So don't go all the way off the end like that. You'll have a groove that will look unsightly. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this down, and it basically cuts a channel in the leather. When you get to the end, don't go over the end. Catch the end of where that groove would be. Again, stop towards the end, and you're doing the curl there. And then from there, now you've finally got something to register to, which is the end of this run that you've put there. And now you can run all the way down. If you take a couple of goes, readjust your hand. That sort of idea to get to the end. Now you can take these bits off, but you've got to be a little bit savvy, because what you want to do is not go past the point here. You don't want to overrun it. Okay, so you want to stop it just before the end to put your top end, and now you finish it off there. One thing it does block up quite often is the hole, so keep yourself like a pin or something to keep it clear, but try not to come through the cutting end side, cut through the back end and clear it that way, rather than mess up the sort of cutting edge of it. You can go through it again, give yourself a different appearance to the groove by going deeper. So there's one that's gone down twice, one has only gone down once. It's far more clear when you've gone down twice. Okay, so there we are. Slightly too much light. So we've got a groove. All the way around, so decorative. Now this groove is useful when you start stitching sheaths up, because it allows the thread to just lay down flat below the sheath, sort of level, and that protects the thread from getting caught. Keeps dirt out of it as well. So it's a good technique to use and a very useful tool. And you could do all sorts of things with it at some point by doing freehand curls. I'll have a go with it there, actually, to be honest. So I'm going to put it out like that. Now let's just say we were here. I could go like that, and then like that, like that, and like that. Just noodling, alright. And the other thing you can do is that the groove, you can actually run the other way down, the wrong way, just to finish the groove off and make it smoother. If you look at it, you've sort of ruffled the surface up a little, so you can clean it up and slightly widen the channel by going back the wrong way. And then obviously the grooves you just done need to be quite accurate with where you're going if you're freehanding. He says, done it before, making it look easy. Sorry guys, but yeah, so freehanding, and that's the beauty of the wasn't it, the sort of style of groover with the thing like that. You can just literally go at it free-handed. Next stage, very simple. We're gonna take the corners off, and that's this one here, which is, I think they call a beveler. It's the forky one that takes the corners off. What you're going to do here is you've got to keep it very stable. So there's a lot of downward force, to be honest, holding that. You don't want to miss, because this is not a chisel, but it will hurt your fingers if you stab your ends. Actually go to the corner. Remember the time when we started that, we weren't actually on an end. This one you actually start on a corner if you can. And then what you're doing is you're taking the corner off and then off the end. Hold that down, and then the end. Like that. So if you're a carpenter, and you basically run a router with a radius on an end. So you took the corner off, flip it over and do the other side. Slightly different this side. It seems to be a lot fluffier on the back. So there we go. So now, end on, it's sort of rounded all the way around with those 45 degrees. Quick as possible, colouring. What should we use? What can we find? Got some black. Okay, loads of dyes on the market. Vids is the one to go for. Let's get you one with a label on that you can see. It says Vids. There's the company name. Vids, that's resin, that's like a treatment. But you get all the colours. And I go for like a professional finish in black. This is the one that really smells because it's got a lot of spirit in it. So Vids, and these things, strange name, they're called a dauber. It's basically a stainless steel kind of handle, and they've pinched up a load of wool at the end. It's like a paintbrush, but it allows you to put things on very evenly. You can use gloves if you want, but my skin is pretty good to chemicals. And you want to put the dye on without like brush strokes. It's one of them things that it's easy to do once you get into the swing of it. But if you go evenly and go up in one go, the strokes that you will make will leave a nice finish anyway, if that makes sense. There are people who can go on round and start doing all this sort of application, but if you just go neatly and slightly overlap your previous one with your next one, you don't end up with a gap between your areas you've just done. You should end up okay. So that's the front. The back will soak in a lot more because it's more open. So be prepared for it to go a bit slower on the back. Alright, so that's the back. And now, I've left the edge till now for this reason. Quick tip, Wessex Blades. You make the edge, not only you're dyeing it, you're making it wet. Reason in a minute. So, the edge is wet because you just dyed it. Put the lid on the bottle because these damn things tip over easy. Now, have a little pot of water. You don't want to go crazy. You wet it. That's an old dauber. Get one of these. What's that? And you rub the edge that's wet. Now you've made it wet already with dye, so you dyed it and wet it in one go, and then made it slightly wetter with the water, and you've rubbed that on it. See the grooves where it's been before? What's that? Dove soap. Tip of the day. So you go like that, and you get this thing. You can run one of them off on a wooden lathe quite happily. If I were you, I'd use some really nice wood, like African hardwood, or something that takes a burnish really well. If you get a beech one, you'll have to work it to get it burnished. And this now, in those rounded channels, is going to, by rubbing up and down, give you what is termed a slicked edge. Remember, if I did this with just the dye and the soap, it would just about work because it made it wet. The extra touch of water really helps, and it gives you that shiny, rounded, closed over sort of look to the leather. The reason we do that, it stops ingress of dirt and water, and it's, you know, it gives the leather some form of protection because you've closed the grain up a bit. Now, you could be, there's a bit of water on there. The actual action of the hard soap almost does half the job. That channel in there, recognise the channel, is pretty much what the channel in there is. So that's sort of slicked it, and this is finishing it off. Differing radii for different thicknesses. I start off on a wider one and finish off on a narrower one, and you close the ends of the leather over a bit as well. So that's the wide one, that's the leather one, and you can drag the edge of the thinner one against the edge, and you can finish the top off, or you can use that there. Next edge, dash of water. Now, traditionalists can use something called gum tragacanth. Now, gum tragacanth can be used to set a gem in, I think, if you're going to solder it in. It just holds things down because it's gooey, but I've used gum tragacanth. It's a bit of a faff because you've got to mix it with water and gel it all up, whereas Dove soap lasts forever, does half the job for you by the fact that you eventually wear the channels in it anyway. I've just soaked it. Now what I can do, I can wet it. There's all manner of combinations of soap, the Dove soap, the water, the dye, the slicker, and eventually you'll get away a technique, and the amount of time you spend on it, how hard you do it, how fast you do the slicking, the amount of travel you do up and down, how you hold it. Eventually you'll find a way that you find easy. So you can put it flat and just use the flats of the slicker just to even it all out. That there needs a bit more work. That's your water. There we go. Shiny edges, shiny edges, shiny ends. And it's black. Nice. Okay, what are we after now? It goes on someone's wrist. No. I'll make it so it fits me. So it's about there. So I've got about a 10mm overlap, which is just about right. So 10mm overlap, which is about there. Two choices. If you went for it, you could punch it by punching through both anyway, if you've got a really good punch, or you could put it on a sort of an anvil end or a piece of broom handle and put an awl through. Okay, little spiky awl. Got one to hand here at the moment. You might not. There he is. Oh, it's live in it, eh? So you'd actually drive that through both pieces of leather, so all the way through the top one, and enough to mark the bottom half, and you'll have your mark for your punch. But I've got a really good punch. When you buy cheap ones, you know, like a Draper or something, if it's around 15 quid, you're not going to be able to do this very effectively. In fact, if I used it, I'll probably break it. This is a £45 punch. So that's an idea on just how well built this is compared with a cheap one. Did you hear that? Clunk, straight through. I always find it's also best to give it a bit of a twist. That. And then there, just to free it off of the conical jewels. So now you've got your holes, boom and boom. Capstan head allows you to put different size holes, but what you'd have to do if you didn't have a piece like that, Identity Store, people ask, I think it's Peter and Jackie, the big revolving head punch, the proper professional one Wessex Blades uses, and I'll set you up, I imagine, with something like that, or anyone else has got one. You're looking for the one that's really solid metal with the brass anvil there. Okay, that's the look of it. The sprung metal, see that huge great metal spring on the side. Okay, and you're looking to spend about £45–50 on something like this, but it's the daddy when it comes to putting holes in things. So all we're going to do now is put some snap on there. Now when it comes to snaps, I've used all sorts. All I buy is proper tandy snaps. When you get them, they're all manner of pieces, and you're looking at them going, what on earth is what? What you're looking for? It's flat bottomed with a post. Then you're looking for flat bottomed with a crater. Then you're looking for dome headed with a post, and you're looking for flying saucer. There's names for them, but you want those 4 different pieces. Okay, first one you're looking for is that one. Flat bottomed with a post. And flat bottomed with a crater goes other side the lever onto him like that. And then you drift the head down. Then you're looking for dome headed cap with a post. And you're looking for the sort of one with the brass clip inside the spring clip. And that one would go on there afterwards. What I found is the flat bottom one doesn't really work very well on a lever tool. I'll show you that one in a minute. What I found is what works better for me is using a marble slab, the correct tool, setting tool, and you go onto the flat there. So first up, you put the flat bottom one with the post through there onto the hard surface. Now you can have a bigger piece of marble. I don't like using metal because metal, if your dye is still on your leather, if your leather's slightly wet, you end up making your metal sort of hitting plate, it ends up rusty and it could stain your leather. So when it comes to using things for hitting on leather, like a hardwood or HDPE, plastic maybe, all those things are fine, but I prefer using a chunk of marble. And you put the setting tool on the post, hold that down whilst you're doing it in some way, because you really want the post as it deforms to catch that early. So something like that is a bit of a handful. Not a big hit in one go, and then I turn it because I don't want the same marks on the head as you're hitting it. Nearly there. So I used it halfway like that, it's easy, and then eventually I'm driving it down. And then double check that it's really driven on hard. When you're sort of a halfway house, you can slot that backwards and forwards, in which case just tap it a few more times. So that one is now on, and I now transfer to doing using a levering tool. Here we go. Okay, so this has the correct head and setting tool, but for this one. If I was going to do that one, I'd have to turn this off and take that out, and I never really got the drive to do it. So I use the setting tool and that for the other one. This one, I use this tool, and this does a great job on this. That goes like that, that goes there, and then all my weight driven it down, and then I actually clout that a few times as well. You will get a slight rattle. That's that brass wiry clip thing, but that now works. So, as I say, it's not the end product that I'm here to show you how to make, because you can go away with your creative differences and make all sorts of things based on that. But it's just an introduction to the tools and the techniques and what I use and what I do along the way. So there is a pretty rough and ready bracelet that you can make for your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. Okay. I would say quality things that you're looking for would be, first up, a space to work. So you need, I mean, I'm working on about a square foot here, but I've got a big bench that I've filled up with rubbish. Okay, but you need somewhere to work that's solid. So a decent table, a good cutting mat, plenty of light. There's lights all over here. The quality bits again would be something like the leather. Source your leather from someone that you trust. Check it before you buy it. Check the top, check the bottom. The punch, you really can't scrimp on that. That has to be high quality. Your die, Phoebins, just stick with the name Phoebins. Bits that you can save money on are things like the ruler. Okay, I mean, looks like £5, something like that. Most of my tools are £4 ones from eBay. Most of the tools I have, it's not the tool that does the job, it's me using it that gets to finish. Okay, I'm not a gear hog in every respect, but when it comes to things like that revolving punch, that you can't scrimp on that. You get a cheap one on that and I'll bend it. So you've got to pay top money for that. Things like a tooling hammer, or remember that chisel, the rounded chisel I was using, that's an eBay one, like £5. You can get that. That's a black spur from Proper Job hitting hammer. Pop along to a marble place that does worktops and have an offcut with a corner missing, as long as you don't mind spending some time taking the corners off so you don't scratch your liver. few quid here and there. But basically get in and have a go. On your own was snaps, Tandy snaps. Okay, and there's two sizes, line 20 and line 24. The names are a sort of historical way of the sizing. Is a bit like Whitworth or BA or something in terms of engineering sizes. The name 24, I think, is to do with a hole size or something. But you have line 24 or big ones like that, and line 20 are slightly smaller. You will need a different set of tools to actually form them together. So if you buy line 24, you need a line 24 hitter, if that makes sense. But other than that, that's a basic introduction. There's a sort of way that I'll go through a project with someone on for a video on Patreon. I'll leave this one up on the main YouTube channel. It's something that you fancy having a look at. The Patreon, the videos are available from the lowest tier. So if there's anything you'd be interested in doing it, I'll be doing one a month of these. Sort of, I mean, what am I on? 40 minute, and we can mooch through it together, if that makes sense. Yeah, and it basically just using the tools the way I'm using them. You can get an introduction, a little bit of a preamble on each little thing as I'm going through, and by the end of the video you should have picked up a few ideas on the equipment I'm using, why I'm using it, ways to save money, and areas where you can't scrimp on this. You need to buy a really investable tool for this job, because you can't get the finish unless you get that good bit of kit. So I hope that helps everybody else. Thanks everybody who supported the channel, especially everybody who supported me on Patreon. It's coming up for a year now. And have a good week. Scott Wessex Blades out.